All right, it is 8:05. Good morning. I'm going to start up. It's going to probably seem a little bit off kilter today, just so you know. Don't worry about that at all. Hopefully everything will go fine. Occasionally what happens when we do this, because I have taught this class online before, is for whatever reason, somebody clicks the link and they can't get in. So if that happens, I may have to jump off for just a minute to try to either send them another link or try to get them in, just so you know that. All right, so let me start up. Let's see. All right, hopefully what all of you can see on your screen right now is the syllabus. If for some reason you cannot see the syllabus, I have emailed it to you. But if you're like, oh geez, I don't have it or whatever, then just let me know and we'll work through that. It's not a problem. But I want to start by going through the syllabus. There's 80 days on here, so of course I'm not going to go through all 80 days. But what I'll do is go through the beginning of the syllabus and then through week 1, so you have some kind of an idea of what's going on. All right. So welcome to the class. My name is Jeff Scott. Now, it is possible that one or more of you have already taken a class or two at Rankin. If you were in the class this summer with Mr. Gudmisted, I know that you'd see his picture over here in the corner. I don't do that. There's nothing wrong with him doing that, but I have been told I've got a face for radio. That's me. And just so you know, I mean, you're not going to see me. Anytime you have a problem, of course, I will get a hold of you. We can have a Teams meeting. We can meet through emails, whatever way works the best for you in case there are any kind of problems. All right, so again, welcome to the class. The course number is AWD1100. AWD is an acronym which is short for Application and Website Development, which is the name of the program that you're in. The name of the course is Programming Fundamentals with C#. We will meet Monday through Friday from 8:05 a.m. until 11:55 a.m. You'll notice for the building in the room, it says NA for not applicable. Actually, what the bigwigs at Rankin actually decided last Thursday was that I had my choice. They did not have a classroom for me to be doing this out of. So either I had to go over to the other building that we have at Rankin and use the conference room or broadcast from my home. I'm trying it from my home. I have done this before where I broadcast from home. All right, just so you know, I mean, when we've had classes before where the class, because of weather conditions or whatever, has been canceled, we've just met where I've been at home like this. All right. If for some reason you're watching this tape now, or you're watching this recording now, or later, you've got the tape up and you have any kind of issues with sound quality or whatever, please let me know. All right. And then I'll work through it because occasionally there are problems. All right. This particular lecture and most lectures are going to be available in two different formats. They're going to look exactly the same, but they'll be available both through Microsoft Teams and through my YouTube playlist. So every day when I come in and I lecture, so every day we have a lecture like this, all right, you'll be able to look at them in one of two ways. There will be certain times when I will lecture and the lecture will be available on Microsoft Teams, but will not be available through the YouTube playlist. And if you go, well, why would that be? I'm going to explain that as we go through this today. All right. This is my information. Okay. And the easiest way to get a hold of me is via email. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to go through this syllabus and just talk a little bit about the first week, talk about the class, talk about the book. Then we're going to do some downloading of software. And let's just assume that it's the end of the period now and you're totally confused. You're like, geez, I don't even know if I should be in this class or not. If that happens, please, get a hold of me, give it a few days, because I've had that happen. I've had people, literally sit there for the first 3 hours and then drop. I don't understand that, because I don't think you know enough about what you don't know or do know to drop. But again, as always, that's an individual decision. I will tell you that as we start to go through this, if you're struggling and you have problems, I am going to try to arrange to provide one or more tutors that will be able to work with you electronically. If in the event you need a tutor, there is no cost for you. If you really get this stuff and you're like, geez, I think I could tutor, you could make yourself $10 an hour to tutor. I know it's not a lot of money, but it's a little bit of money. All right. So you can see my information. Now for office hours, literally at 6 o'clock every morning, I turn on the computer. So from 6 to 8, so that's before class. All right. And also from 7 until 9 at night, Monday through Thursday, I'll have it turned on. And to be honest with you, I usually, like over the weekends and whatever, I have it on a lot. I try to check my emails, etc. Any messages I get on Teams, I try to check those several times per day. All right. So program level outcomes. This sometimes is a little bit confusing to people because these are not all of the outcomes from this class. These are the outcomes from the 4 courses that you take in the AWD program, the 4 computer courses. All right. We do nothing in this class about developing and designing websites. Sorry, not a thing. If this is your first class, then in fall you will take the online AWD1100, which is Web Development Technologies. In that class, that's what we do in there. All right. Develop, troubleshoot, and implement applications using object-oriented programming, or OOP. Yeah, we'll do some of that in here, but that's not until chapter 12 of the book. So that's going to be quite a ways down the road before we really talk about that stuff. How about this one? Create database-driven web applications. Well, we're not going to exactly create database-driven web applications, but by the end of this semester, you will understand what SQL is, what LINQ is, and what .NET data access techniques are. Now, that is not until chapters 20, 19, 20, 21, and 22 of our book. So that'll be the last month or 6 weeks or whatever of class. And utilize a version control system to manage code. Yeah, we will do that in here. We do that in all of the classes. So this is the book. Let me just click on the link I've got in here. So this is the book, and hopefully you have already either purchased a print copy or an ebook. All right, I've got both, and what I'll be going off of in here is an ebook copy that you see right there. Okay, the hope is literally to go over the entire book. So you'll notice there's 22 chapters. Yeah, we'll go over all of them. Now, it may seem to you as we go through this week, it's like, wow, you're buzzing through this. The first 3 chapters are fairly elementary. We're going to cover all 3 of those chapters this week. All right, we'll cover just chapter 1 today. Tomorrow we'll cover chapters 2 and 3. All right. And we'll slow it way down, so don't worry about it, especially when we get to the second half of the book. We'll slow it way down. All right. So again, this is our book. And like I said, you should be able to either get a copy of it online, get a copy of it through Amazon or the bookstore. I'm not sure even how that works anymore because most of the bookstore stuff has gone electronic as well. All right. So jumping back then to the syllabus. Course description, one thing on Thursday of this past week, we had our in-service. and it was from 8:30 until almost 12:30, so it was about 4 hours. There were no breaks. Several people presented, and most of them had PowerPoint presentations that they sat and read to us. What you're going to find is I don't do that. So under this course description, you're all big boys and big girls, so you can read this. This is a course in the C# programming language. All right. So the idea is if you're coming in here and you have little to no experience, by the time you get out of the class, you will be considered an intermediate level C# programmer. All right. That's the idea. What you should get out of this class is shown right here. All right. So these are all things that we are going to end up covering in this class. Again, I don't want to read to you. You'll start to hopefully develop a comfort level with Visual Studio, today already. All right. And we're going to go through that in just a couple minutes. We will develop both console applications, and the majority of the ones that we create will be GUI or graphical user interface presentation or applications. All right. A lot of the stuff that's in here is stuff that's covered later on in the book. I don't want to confuse you, so I'm not going to go through it. All right. For the policies, as it says right there, this is, it's all in the Rankin Technical College Student Handbook. All right. Now, what you're going to probably notice if you are taking any other class, so if you're taking a general education class, theirs may look a little different, their syllabus, than mine. Again, I'm not going to read this to you, but basically what it says is this is an internet or online class. The way that it'll work is like this. So I don't care what this says. I'm telling you right now the way it'll be. You will have homework that will be due Sundays by midnight. There is nothing due this coming up Sunday. Nothing. Your first homework assignment will be due not on Sunday the 28th. It'll be due Sunday the 4th. You can turn it in anytime before that if you get it finished. All right. And if you turn it in after that, of course, it'll be considered late. You can still turn it in, but you lose some points every day for it being late. Now, what are those assignments? We're going to go over those in just a moment. That's what's on the syllabus. All right. The way that this works is if you turn in any part of any assignment that is due. So if you turn in any part of any assignment that is due by midnight on that Sunday, you're marked as being present. If you turn in nothing, you're marked as being absent. Those are not my rules. Those are the rules of Rankin Technical College for internet classes. All right, that's just how it works. All right, now, since it's an online class, notice what this says. You get a maximum of 2 absences. After you get 2 absences, if the next week, if you don't turn anything in, I'm required to drop you from the class. If that happens, just send me an email if you want to stay in the class, because there's just a form you have to fill out. All right. Again, these are Rankin rules. These are not my rules. All right. So that's the way that it'll work. All right. Now, with some of this stuff in here, like seated face-to-face, we're not a seated course. Excused absences, that doesn't make any sense. Academic honesty, it's very hard to sit there and be able to be in charge of academic honesty when you're working with an online class. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not inferring that any of you would ever cheat, but it's harder for me. I'm not seeing you, etc. So it's harder for me to be able to kind of, I don't know, discipline you or whatever. All right. The grading is shown right here. Now, I do want you to know this is not a misprint, but Rankin does not give out Ds, just so you're aware of that. So in other words, if you do not achieve an average of 74.5 or above, you fail the course. It will not go into the book as a D, it'll go in there as an F. So even though it shows there being a D there, that's how it works here. Again, these are not my rules. These are the Rankin Technical College rules. All right. So next, they talk here about this workload table. Most people get confused by it, but I will put it to you this way. There are people who have gone through this class, and I have taught this class both in a seated format and I have taught it in an online format. There have been people who have gone through this class and have gotten an A and have never, ever had to do any work outside of class. So what I'm saying is we meet for 80 days for 3 hours and 50 minutes at a crack. Well, let's just break that and let's move that to 4 hours. So 80 times 4 would be 320. What I try to do during that time is to spend half the time either lecturing with you, going over a lab with you, going over a homework or a test with you, or having you be testing. And the other half, so the other 160 hours, are lab time for you to be able to actually work on homework, tests, etc. All right. Some people are able to get everything done during that time. Some people are not. Again, everybody is different, and I get that. All right. Okay. So as far as the grading and the weight, notice you're going to have 4 different types of things in here. All right. You're going to have written tests. We're going to actually do the first written test together today as a class. You're all going to get 100. All right. I want you to still turn it in, but I'm going to go over it with you in just a little bit. All right. So those will be worth 10%. Now there's 22 chapters in here. I will tell you, yes, there are 22 written tests, but I won't assign all of them. You'll probably have somewhere between 15, 16 or so that will actually be assigned. All right. That'll be part of the thing that will be due on Mondays. All right. And we'll talk more about that in just a bit. You will have homework and lab problems for most chapters. All right. I don't believe there's a homework or a lab for chapter 1 that we'll go over today, but there will be homeworks and labs for chapters 2 and 3, which we'll go over tomorrow. All right. Now, not for every chapter, but after we get through the first 3 chapters, you'll have your first hands-on test. They're also called HOTS. So you'll have your first hands-on test. Before you have that hands-on test, all right, what we'll do is we'll do a practice test. And I will give you about an hour to work on that practice test. And then I'll go over it very slowly, very deliberately with you. And you'll find that the practice test will be very similar to the hands-on test. And we'll have a practice test for virtually every single, before we have a regular hands-on test, we'll have a practice test first. All right. I will record those lessons, but those and those lessons, since they're practice tests, will be out both again on Teams and on my YouTube playlist. All right. Also, at the end of the semester, you will be required to work on an electronic portfolio. If you go, I don't know what that is, don't worry about it. I'm going to actually show you, and you'll be able to follow along with me if you want to, as far as creating that. All right. Okay. Now, as far as general college information, the bottom line is if you've got questions on anything, you'll want to get a hold of Mr. Patrick Glenn. Patrick works in our registration office. He's not only a terrific guy, he's very, very good at his job. So you can either email him there or you can call him here. All right. But again, with tutorial assistance, like I said, I'm going to talk to my class this afternoon, and I'm going to ask, because they've all gone through the C# class already, and I'm going to ask if any of them have an interest in tutoring electronically. All right. I will let you know, once we get to that point. And if you never need a tutor, fine. And if you do need a tutor, That's also fine. All right. Students with disabilities, if you've got some kind of a disability that you want me to know about, send me an email, jpscott@rankin.edu. Now, the way that disabilities works is different in this class than it is in a regular classroom class. In a classroom class, if you've got an hour to do a test, if you're a person with disabilities, they typically give you double that amount of time. So you'd get 2 hours. Well, that's not really relevant in here because believe it or not, you're literally, when I hand out a test to you, you're going to have 12, 13, almost 16 hours to complete the test. What do I mean by that? That every time you take a hands-on test, I will email you the hands-on test. It will be emailed to you at 8 o'clock on that morning. It is due at midnight that evening. And if you say, well, why do you do it that way? Well, it all has to do with a couple words that you may or may not know the meaning of. And those words are synchronous and asynchronous. Those of you who are watching this lecture live right now, you are taking this course synchronously. If you've got a question, you can ask right now. You can break into the meeting and, so to speak, and ask. And that's what I'm here for. But there are also several students who are taking this course asynchronously, which means that they may be at work at their job right now. And when they get home at 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon, they will end up watching the tape at that time. And if they have questions, they will email me at that time. All right. And the reason that, again, that I'm going through and telling you this is it's set up differently in here. All right, than it is in some of the other classes. So like I said, you will get hands-on tests, literally will be emailed to you. They will be emailed to you by 8 o'clock on the day of the test. They will be due at 11:59 p.m. that evening. So that works out to you get like 15 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds to turn it in. All right. Career services, what you may want to end up doing, it's a little early, but you can do it right now. All right, is go out to the Rankin website when you get a chance, which is just rankin.edu. And under rankin.edu, they actually have out there a thing that's called Rankin Connection. You might have to search for it. And if you sign up for the Rankin Connection and you say you're in the AWD program, then anytime they get jobs that come across that AWD type of jobs, you'll get sent those to you via an email. All right. Snow days and campus emergencies, again, that's kind of moot because even if it's snowing out like crazy, you're at home right now, I'm at home right now. We should be able to meet regardless. The only thing that would stop us from meeting would be if for some reason my internet connection went down. And if my internet connection goes down, what's going to end up happening if that does happen? So if my internet connection were to go down, all right, I'm going to immediately send all of you an email telling you that, hey, I'm about to get into my car and drive over to the Rankin Wentzville campus, and I'm going to hope that their internet connection is up. All right, so there might be a 30-minute gap between the time I leave here and the time I get to Rankin. All right. So again, assume that classes will always be held. All right. So let's take a quick look here. This may make very little sense to you, and it's totally okay. I just want you to understand what we'll be doing this week. What I am supposed to be doing with all of you is every day when we start, I'm supposed to go over what we're going to cover for that day and give you a quick little review of what we covered on the previous day. Well, since this is day one, of course, we don't have a previous day, but I will take a little bit of time. So we've done the introduction. I went through the handbook review. There is no department handbook, but we'll talk work ethic in just a couple minutes. All right, the internet usage doesn't really apply in here. And we're going to talk about GitHub and Git in just a couple minutes. All right. Now, I want to mention, as it says right here, at the end of the semester, I go through and I drop your lowest grade. Everybody can have a bad day. You know, you take a test. Hopefully it won't be the first test, but you take a test and you just zone out or whatever, and you get a bad grade. But you're doing well in everything else. Well, that one then gets dropped at the end of the semester. All right. Okay. So we are going to go over chapter 1 in just a couple minutes. I do want to let you know too, in case you were wondering, I am going to lecture from 8:05 until about 8:50. So I'm going to go 45 minutes. Then we're going to take a 10-minute break. I leave the taping and etc. on during that time. So we'll take a break from 8:50 till 9 o'clock. Then I will lecture from 9 o'clock till 9:50, and we'll take another 10-minute break until 10 o'clock. Then I will lecture from 10 o'clock until 10:50, and we'll take another 10-minute break. And finally, I'll go from 11 o'clock till 11:55. So even though the class is 3 hours and 50 minutes long, 30 minutes of that time will be time for break. All right. If you have a question during a break time, I mean, typically I'm in here, I've got my water with me, and typically I'll go grab another water. But if you got a question, you can come in with, at Teams during then. If it's a personal question, you want to email me, that's totally fine as well. If you want to wait till after class, again, totally fine. So today we are going to go over chapter 1. You can see it highlighted there. Don't worry about the objectives, etc. All right. So it says here, assignment chapter 1, written test and homework labs. I don't believe there is any homework for chapter 1. I don't believe there are any labs for chapter 1. There is a written test. Guess what? We're going to do it together. All right. Not today, but we're going to end up doing it together. I am going to strongly recommend to you that you read each chapter in the book. I have had people who have gotten through my class, and I remember a young lady told me this a few years ago. She said, Mr. Scott, I'm going to sell back my book and I'm going to get all the money for it because I never opened it. Your lectures were inclusive enough that I didn't consider that to be a good thing, because I'm sure there's some gold nuggets in the book that either I skip over accidentally or I don't consider them to be that important, but that doesn't mean that they're not important. So we're going to go over chapter 1 today, and we're going to do some software downloads today. Tomorrow, we're going to go over both chapter 2 and chapter 3. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to be doing a lot of stuff online as a class. I have to take for granted that as we're doing something as a class, that if something is not working for you, that you're going to tell me. All right. And again, if you say, well, yeah, I would, but I'm kind of a shy person, you're going to have to be able to get over that. One nice thing is about doing this online, you saw my picture, but I don't know what any of you look like. I'm going totally by the sound of your voice. And anybody who's taking this class asynchronously, who has any problems, I may only email back and forth with them. I may never even hear their voice. All right. So Wednesday, we'll have this pretest. I will send this out Wednesday morning. I will go over it with you for the first 5 or 10 minutes of class. Then I will give you approximately an hour to work on it. During that time, I will be online. All right. You will see a picture of the test on your screen. You can either email me if you have questions or break in and we can do a Teams thing, right during class, however you want to do it. Then Thursday of this week, we're actually going to have a hands-on test. You're going to be amazed at how similar the hands-on test will be to the pretest that we're doing as a class. The reason I'm telling you that is if you go, oh my God, you're giving us a test on 3 chapters after 4 days. Yeah, because you'll have all that material that you need. You really and truly will. All right. Now, I'm not going to go much past week 1, but I do want you to know every Friday, I'm scheduled every Friday as being a lab day. What that means is every Friday I will be online sitting here seeing if anybody has questions. Again, I will be there. I will not be taping this. So there will not be a Teams meeting on Friday. All right, but I will be online. You can email me at any time. I can have a special Teams session with just you. Or if somebody has a question, it's like I'm getting this question from 4 different people, then I will go in and start up a Teams meeting. But every Friday, so in other words, you can be assured that is a guaranteed 20% of the semester. In other words, if we're talking about 16 weeks, that is 16 class periods or approximately 60 hours that are dedicated 1 day a week to you just working on lab. When I say lab, that just means it's your time to work on homework. It's your time to work on tests, etc. All right. And you'll notice how it's going to start even slowing down a little next week, because on Monday of next week, we'll go over chapter 4. Tuesday, we'll go over chapter 4 and get into chapter 5. Wednesday, we'll go into chapter 5. Thursday, again, there'll be a pretest. All right. And then notice Friday is still a lab. Then the day you come back after Labor Day, we'll have our second hands-on test. But again, even if it seems like we're going too quickly, I'll have to go by you guys. In other words, if you think, yeah, you're going way too fast, I'm not picking this stuff up, then what you are going to be responsible for doing is emailing me or getting a hold of me on Teams and letting me know that. I will tell you, we will be writing a lot of code in here as a class. Every time you've got a homework, every time you've got a lab, I will do at least one of the homework problems with you. I will do at least one of the lab problems with you. All right. I guarantee that I will be doing that. All right. So if you've got 3 homework problems, we'll do one of them as a class. Okay. And that'll work out like that for every single chapter that we go over. I'm just guaranteeing you that right now. All right. So what I would like to do, it's 8:37. And like I said, I'm going to go until 8:50. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to do this a little different than what I planned originally. And that is I want to start going over chapter 1. We'll take a break. Then I'm going to finish chapter 1 after the break. Then we're going to download 2 or 3 pieces of software that you will need to get through this class. I will tell you that I'm hoping at least that all of you have a Windows machine and not a Mac or an Apple machine. If you do have a Mac or an Apple machine, you can still get through the class, but there's more stuff that you have to do. And basically, I'm going to have to take whatever you send me and run it through some filters to get it to work. All right, that doesn't mean that it can't be done. I've had people who have done that before. I have had people who have started the class with a Macintosh machine and have switched over to a Windows machine because they found it too tough for them. So again, I'm going to start on chapter 1. That'll be today. Tomorrow we'll go over chapters 2 and 3. All right. So with that said, let me jump into chapter 1. Just so you're aware of this, the way that Muroc books work is typically the page on the left-hand side, in other words, the even number page, usually is all text. The page on the right-hand side, the odd number page, that usually is either charts or tables or code or something else. It doesn't always work like that, but it almost always does. All right. Now, chapter 1 talks about Visual Studio. You probably do not have that yet on your computer. The reason that I decided to do it like this is what has happened in the past, especially when I taught this class in the classroom, is I'd go over the syllabus and we would almost immediately go and download Visual Studio. Then I'd lose half the class because they'd be trying to do this or trying to do that just to see what happens. I want you to do that. But I want to be able to show you what Visual Studio is, what it's about, how we're going to use it, etc. And I want hopefully your attention to be on me. All right. So again, we'll go over chapter 1. Then when we get done, we'll download Visual Studio. All right. I am going to take for granted that at least one of you in here does not have the other two pieces of software we'll need for the class. And those are Git and GitHub. And if you say, I don't even know what those are, I'm going to show you those in just a minute. All right. And actually, after we go through chapter 1. So today, I want to go through chapter 1. All right. Sandwich a break in there, finish up chapter 1. Then we're going to download Visual Studio. It's a big download. I don't remember the size of it, but I've cut down what you need to download quite a bit. We only have to download the stuff we need for this class. I've already got Visual Studio on my machine. So what I'm going to do is when I go through chapter 1, I want to show you what everything will look like. Then after we get done with chapter 1, I'm going to uninstall Visual Studio, and ideally we're going to install it together. So you can see it literally from ground zero, so to speak. All right. And we'll do that. And again, as we go through this, if something doesn't make sense, especially like I said, since I cannot see your faces, that if something does not make sense, you're going to stop and ask. And for those of you who are watching this asynchronously or watching it on tape, I'm going to assume then that you're going to send me an email to let me know that you're having a problem with it. All right. So as it says in here, this is going to introduce the .NET platform, the different languages that you can use to work with it. The only one we care about is C# in this class. And really, this is the key thing, the Visual Studio development environment. All right. Visual Studio is known as an IDE. I for integrated, D for development, E for environment. And if you go, I don't know what that means. It's the tool that you're going to use to both create all of your C# programs and also to compile and run all of your C# programs. All right. It is a Microsoft product. I will tell you that if you know me well or if you take enough classes from me, I'm not a big Microsoft guy. But that said, this is a great piece of software. I will also tell you that if you're going to take the AWD1000 class in spring, the Web Development Technologies class, in there, what we use as an editor is not Visual Studio, but something that's called Visual Studio Code, which is kind of a stripped down version of Visual Studio. All right. So again, I'm not going to read here, but if you take a quick look, we get an intro to the environment, we get a tour of the IDE, and we actually find out how to test a project. So what's going to happen is when we get to that point in here, all right, I'm going to start up Visual Studio and I'm going to go and create 2 different projects for you. One of those projects will be what's called, it's literally be what's called a console project. And when I run it, it'll more or less look like this. In other words, it'll be a black background with white text, and it'll be pretty ugly. All right, that's a console project. Then I will write the same project.
Real quick butt in.
Sure.
Right now your stream is just streaming the Word document. It's not showing
Thank you.
the
Thank you very
interactive.
much.
All
Thank
good.
you. Let's see. I'll get that just a second. All right. Gotta figure out which one of these it is. All right, let's see. Do you now see it?
Yep, seems to be
Okay.
working.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Believe me, it's been a while since I've been doing it this way, so I apologize for that, but thank you for letting me know right away. I appreciate it. Okay, so like I said, we'll get a quick introduction to the .NET development environment, then it'll probably be time for a break. Then I will bring up Visual Studio. We'll go through the stuff that's in here, and I will quickly write two very simple projects. One will be uh, one will be a console application, which basically will just be a black background, white text, and that's all it'll be is just text. The other one will be a GUI or a graphical user interface application. So I'll write both of them for you, and we'll go through everything that you have to do. All right. And you might say, well, geez, you know what? Then why don't we load it so we can do it too? Because what I've found in the past is what happens is one or two people tend to fall a little bit behind, and one to two people get it and they're ahead. And then I've got a disjointed class where I've got some people who, hey, wait a minute, stop, I need some help. And other people, geez, we're going way too slow. And there, as you probably guess, there's no way to please everybody. So I've just decided that I'm just going to be the one, all right, that's going to go through everything. And then, maybe tomorrow we'll just go back or if there's time today, we'll go back and we'll rewrite these together, just so you can see them, just so you get a chance to do this yourselves. So an introduction rather to the .NET development environment. Okay, what you're going to see when we get started is when you bring up Visual Studio, there are different types of projects that you can create. There will be only two of them that we will be concerned with in this class. They will be Windows Form applications for .NET and console applications for .NET. So all the stuff they talk about in here, you don't have to worry about it. All right. So here's an example of a GUI application. So if you've not looked at the book before, this is probably your first time taking a look at it. All right. This is really and truly not a hard program. And believe it or not, probably by this time next week, you'd be able to build this interface in about 5 minutes. All right. You may or may not be able to tell. There's a little box right here, right there. There's a box there. That's called a group box. Its title is Calculate, and it has inside of it two radio buttons. Maybe you've heard the story about this. Maybe you have not. I'll make it short and sweet. And that is back in the 60s, every car had radio buttons in it. All right, you pressed a button, you'd pre-program it to a radio station, but only one could be on at a time. And that's the same way radio buttons work. All right, so they're for what are called mutually exclusive choices. Either that is chosen or that is chosen. If I click on the button here that says monthly investment, the one that says future value will not be highlighted anymore. So the black circle will go in here and away from there. These things right here, these are labels. They're like headings. These things here, these four things, all right, these are called text boxes. You'll notice one of them is gray. It's read only. If you go, I don't know what that means, you're going to be building apps like that, so don't worry about it. And finally, these two things are buttons. These are basically typically what you put your code behind. So if I put in this, and I put in this, and if I put in this, and I click calculate, that's going to appear here. All right. Here's those three platforms. Again, we care about the Windows Forms. We don't care about the Windows Presentation Framework or the UWP or the ASP.NET, etc. They do come in here and they talk about the .NET framework, and they'll give you in here. If you look real quick, you'll notice I want to stop in just a second because it is 8:50. We are going to be using what's called the Community Edition. The reason for that is It's free. All right. You can download 30-day trial versions of Professional or Enterprise, but they've got a bunch of stuff in there we don't even need. All right. We're only going to be concerned with C#. We don't care about Visual Basic or F#. All right. This sounds like a good place because it's 8:50. So let's take a break and let's come back then at right at 9 o'clock. Does anybody have any questions before we break? All right, I'm going to keep this on. My water's out, so I'm just going to run to the kitchen and grab a water, and I'll be back after that. All right, so if you've got any questions, then just let me know. Thanks. All right, it is 9 o'clock and 30 seconds, so I'm going to start back up again. I wanted to tell you before we go on, I wanted to just mention to you, and you've already got the email with this in here, but this is my YouTube channel for this course. All right, so I've already sent this to you. You already got it in an email, but just in case anybody had any problems or whatever, that's it right there. You don't need to type in all that. I know it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but people tell me, well, that's too hard to remember. Well, the other thing that you can do is you can just go out and you can go to youtube.com and just search for Jeff Scott Rankin Technical College. And you'll get there, it'll have my initial on it. And if you click on there, all right, you can go to playlists. And one of the playlists that's going to be in there is going to be Fall 2022 AWD 1100 C# programming. So you can click on that and it'll show you there are literally like 49 videos in there right now. And the reason that I've done that is I don't like to go over PowerPoint lectures in class. I have found that by and large, people are able to read PowerPoints on their own, and a lot of them get very put off when the instructor goes and lectures gives PowerPoints. Now, if you're taking another class, that instructor does that, that's their call. I don't care, to be honest with you. So jumping back into our book, and I'm going to jump over to page 9 here. All right. This is kind of what we're working with. All right. As this picture, as you look up towards the top of the picture, that's you. As you go down and look towards the bottom of the picture, that's the computer. So you are going to be sitting there, and for this class, we are going to be using C#. Now, you'll notice with these .NET framework class libraries for the framework and the core, we're going to be using some of the stuff in here for Windows Forms. Just pretend that the ASP.NET and the ASP.NET Core don't even exist. The EF, which is the entity framework, and the EF Core that you see there, we don't discuss until the last month or so of class. That's the database portion of the class. That's the last 4 chapters of the book. This common infrastructure, when you go and write a program and try to compile and run the program, this is what is going to end up happening. All right. It uses something called the CLR, or the Common Language Runtime. So do you have to worry about that? The only reason you might have to worry about any of this stuff is for the written test. All right. When you do a hands-on test, there will never be a true false, fill in the blank, a multiple choice question. It'll be write this program. Every single test that you get, excuse me, that's a hands-on test. So with that said, this is our IDE right here. This is what Visual Studio is going to end up looking like. All right. So what I'm going to show you right now, in fact, maybe we'll even build this one. I won't put the code in there, but we'll build this one. All right. So I'll take a picture of this. I'm going to take a screenshot. Don't you worry about this. And I'll put it there so I've got it. So, all right. So what's going to happen after we download and install Visual Studio is you're going to click to start up Visual Studio, and it's going to look like this. Now, you won't have this stuff on it because I've already written a lot of projects. But we are going to download Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition. We'll do that again as soon as we finish this chapter. And when we come in, once we do that again, yours will be empty to start. You'll fill it up fairly quickly. All right. We will want to create a new project. So we're going to click that thing right there that says create a new project. And when you look, there's a lot of stuff to choose from. And it gets a little bit confusing. So the first one that we'll create will be a C# console application for .NET Framework. So notice if I come up here in the search, if I type in the word console, how this changes. Now there's only 4 possibilities. All right. We will.
Again, you're
Again.
streaming the
Okay.
wrong
All
window.
right. Let me change. Thank you.
All good.
I'll remember it sooner or later. All right. Let's right here. There we go. All right. Can you see it now?
Yep, looks good.
All right. Thanks for keeping me on my toes. So again, let me close this or go back. So when you first get into it, this is what it's going to look like. And again, yours won't show any of this stuff because we don't have any projects yet. We will, if you want to open up an existing project, you can either click on it here, or you can click on open the folder or open a project. But what we're going to care about mostly is going to be create a new project. So we're going to click there. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of things to choose from. What we are going to want to do 100% of the time is either choose console app.NET Framework or Windows Form app.NET Framework, always. And if it doesn't show on your screen, you come up here and you type in console, and that changes. Now there's only 4 or 5 possibles, but you want to choose the one that says console app.NET Framework, and it has C# by it, like that. So when you click on that, and then you can click next, or I could double click on it. It doesn't matter. It's going to ask for a name of a project. Don't worry about this now because we're going to do it together in just a bit. And it's going to say, where do you want that project to live? So what do you want the project to be called? And what do you want the solution to be called? I don't expect you to understand what either one of those are. It's totally fine. Now, if we build instead of a console app, we come in here and we type in Windows Form. You'll notice that my top one, and it may not be the top one for you, says Windows Forms app, but I want the one again that says .NET Framework and C#. So if I click on that and click next, or if I double click on that, it's going to bring up the same kind of thing where I have to give it a name, etc., and all that good stuff. All right. So I'm going to do all this, and I realize you're not going to see my screen for a second. I do get that. But what we're going to want to do when we get started in just a minute is to go out to our desktop, right mouse click on our desktop, choose new folder, and give it a name. And I'm just going to call this practice. Do you have to put it on your desktop? You can literally put it anywhere you want to. All right. But now when I come in here, and hopefully you can see up here, it says configure your new project. Hopefully you still see all that. We're going to click location, and I'm going to tell it that I want it to go on my desktop, and I want it to be in this folder called practice. And when I do that and I click select folder, you can see how this changed. Now I can't make this screen any bigger. So if you have a hard time reading this, I can't make it any bigger. Sorry about that. But I'm going to make for you quickly, just so you see them, I'm going to make 2 projects in here. The first one will be called Practice Console. All right. In fact, I've got the Windows Forms app up here, so let's call it Practice GUI. And you'll notice when I type in here Practice GUI that it gives the same name for the project as it does for the solution. I don't expect you to know what a project and a solution are. In just a minute, you're going to see them. But I'm just going to call this Practice. This you should never have to change, just leave it alone. And then I'm going to click Create. It'll take anywhere from, if this is your first time, after we go and redo this, it may take up to a minute for the first time. But this is our screen. For lack of better words, this thing right here is kind of like our artist palette. So it's a blank canvas that we can draw on, literally. All right. And again, if none of this makes sense to you, don't worry about it. All right. There's a bunch of tools over here, but you can't see them until I click View and I choose Toolbox. And there's my tools. Now I can grab things like I can grab a button, drag it, and let go, and there's a button. All right. This is how we will create graphical user interface applications. Just so you know that. We'll create a real simple one in just a bit. All right, I'm going to do a file, save all, and then I'm going to do a file, close my, let's see. Yeah, I guess I'll close the solution. Okay, so I want to bring this back up again. So in other words, I want to bring up this practice solution again. But all I'm trying to do here is to show you the difference between the way a GUI project will look and the way that a console app will look. So I'm going to right mouse click on my project and I'm going to choose add new project. You've seen this window already now. I want to choose the console app.NET framework. I will call this practice console. It already is in the right place. So I'll click create. And you'll notice all I see now is code. I don't see any pictures. All right. So just so you can see what this will look like when we run it, I'm going to type in here console.writeLine hello and console.readline. Don't worry a bit about what this means. All right, but I'm going to save it by doing a file, save all, and then I'm going to click this green button up here that says start.
Professor, I'm not sure if anyone else is seeing this, but I'm not seeing a shared screen right now.
You're not seeing the shared screen. Well, then let's get it. Do you see it now?
There it is. Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, that'll be the biggest problem I have this semester is just remembering when I change stuff to switch my screen back. So right here, all I did was when I run this right now, they should just say hello on the screen, literally. All right, so I gotta tell it I want to run that project. Come on. Oh. Practice console, set a startup. So there it is, and you can see the word hello. Now, console apps are important because when you write console apps, all you're writing is code. And the reason that that's important is all you're doing is concentrating on code. On the other hand, when we write GUI projects, people are like, oh, wow, what can I do here? Oh, well, look, if I come in here and I click on this and I click on, back color. All right, if I click on that and I choose a different color, oh, wow, that's cool. So they start getting lost in all the stuff that really in the end doesn't matter. So what I'm telling you is I want to show you both how to create both types of applications. All right, and we'll do a little bit of work with the console and occasionally we'll come back to it. Then when we get to chapter 12 and we start talking about object-oriented programming, half the stuff that we do will be console applications, because what we'll be creating are what are known as classes, and classes are just code files. So they're just console files. All right. So just so I wanted you to see that, I'm going to switch. You'll lose it for a minute. I'll bring it back. So let me get this back again. All right. Can everybody see up here what I'm highlighting? It says the Visual Studio IDE. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So This is the IDE. You don't have to memorize this. This is something that you'll become very familiar with and actually very quickly, even though it may not seem like it. All right. This thing over here is called the Toolbox. It only shows if you're writing a graphical application like this. So when I showed you quickly, when I showed you that console app, there is no toolbox because there's nothing to draw on the screen. Now, when you do this, if you don't want it to show anymore, you just click that X. But if you want it to stay on the screen and not move around really, you click this little thing next to the X, and that's called a pin, and it pins it to your screen. You can move all this stuff around. So if you decided, I want this to be over here and I want this to be over here, you can move it around. I'm going to suggest when you first start to just leave it alone. But just in case you decide to move it, I'm going to show you how you can move it and then get it back to the way it looks right here. In other words, where you've got your toolbox, this is called your form design area. You'll notice there's some blank area down here. If you try to run your program and you get errors, they're going to show down here. If you're running your program and you put some mistakes in your code, even before you run the program, they're going to show in here. All right, so toolbox, form design area. This is your arrow window, and you can use it for a few other things too that we'll talk about in a later chapter. This is called your solution explorer. Now, again, I have no idea how familiar, comfortable, etc. you are with working with a computer, but you got to kind of look at it that the solution is kind of the main folder that's going to hold everything that you create. All right. And then you'll notice in here, we have a thing called financial calculations. That's the project. So solutions hold projects. One solution can hold one or more projects. And I just showed you that before because in that same solution that I called practice, I put in both practice GUI and I put in practice console. So this is your solution explorer. There are going to be files in here that, hey, you're human. Gee, I wonder what happens if I double click this one or this one. Some of the files, I'm going to show you most of them, but I'm going to say, hey, don't mess with those because those are system files. And if you decide you're going to manually start changing them, basically what can happen is your program can just freeze and there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. All right. Then finally, this area that's down here, this is called the properties window. So toolbox, form design area, error window, solution explorer, properties window. So if I click, let's say, on this button, this is going to change and it's going to show me all the properties I can set for that button. If I click on the form, and that's what they've done here, this is all the stuff you can set for the form. If I click on this label, it'll show me all the stuff for the label, etc. Hopefully you get the idea. All right. So when we get the program to where we're ready to compile it and run it, as I showed you before, that's when we're going to click this green button up here. That's our start button. There's other ways of doing it. I'm just trying to show you the most intuitive or easy way of doing something. That's going to be the way that you're going to start to run the program. When you run it internally, this is what's going to happen. All right. Basically, it's going to take what you wrote and it's going to combine it with stuff that exists in .NET, and it's going to try to run, show you and run your program for you. All right. So you're using the integrated development environment, Visual Studio, which has built into it the C# compiler. All right. And your solution will have one or more projects in it. When you run those projects, it'll combine what you wrote along with the stuff that's inside of the system files. And ideally, it's going to show your program output on the screen. And that's what they're showing in here. Now, again, is it that important that you understood everything I just said? Not at all. But I'm trying to be somewhat thorough in going through this stuff with you. All right. So Here's where they start their tour. I already showed you this. This was that start window. And again, we're going to go and download this shortly. But yours will be empty when we first do this. Even though I'm going to uninstall Visual Studio and I'm going to reinstall it with all of you watching and hopefully following along, mine will probably still remember all of the projects I have in here. So even though yours might be empty when we do this, mine probably won't be. And it shows you over here, okay, this should be over here a timestamp, not, it'll be the last time that the file was worked on. I don't think it shows when it was created. I think it shows when it was worked on or accessed last. And again, over here, we're not going to ever worry about the clone or checkout code. All right, you can use Git with this. We're not going to do that because I've done it in the past and students have struggled and found out that typically have told me this is too hard. So I'm going to show you an easier way of doing it. Here is where we will open up one of these. So we can either, let's say we wanted to open up this futurevalue.sln, and SLN means solution file. So I could either double click on this, or I could click on open a project or solution and find it and click on it there. After a while, you might have 20 or 30 of them in here. So it might be easier if you want to open something to click that, all right, and find it that way. This should always be a list of the most up-to-date things with your newest projects first and your oldest ones down below. All right. This, as it says, will allow you to open up a local folder. There will be a couple times in here where we'll need to do that, but by and large, you won't do much with it. The create new project window, I think that's what they're going to show next. No, they're not. But it's the one that I'd shown you previously that had the different types of projects in there. And we went up, I think it's up a couple pages. But you're going to see in here, that's where that search is, where we could search for console or we could search for Windows Form or whatever. So open or close a project, another way you can do it is to find the solution file and just double click on it. All right. What they're doing in here in this first chapter is they're trying to give you what typically is referred to as the 30,000 foot view. So you're up in an airplane and you're looking down on this. All right. But as we go through the individual chapters, the plane will get lower and lower and lower. All right. So we'll be covering a lot of these things in depth as we go through here. All right. So again, as I've already mentioned, there's your toolbox. There's your form design area. This will be in here will be your error window. This is your solution explorer. This is your properties window. Up here, we've got our main menu. And for a lot of these options, you can either use the menu or there will be different icon lists. And I'm going to show you how you can add or remove from there too. It's not difficult. All right. So this, as it says, this is Visual Studio, and it's got basically everything showing. This will look a lot different if instead of writing a GUI app like they've got here, we're writing a console app. It'll be much smaller. Okay, we'll talk about that as we get into it. One thing about Muroc books is they show you pictures and tables and charts, and then they go over on the right-hand bottom, usually of the page, and they give you a quick review of what they just went over. Because I've had people who have told me, I don't even like to read this stuff. I just like to go right to the page on the right, look at their pictures, and then look at the summary. If that works for you, then do it that way. All right. So when we write actual code, we'll be using what's called the code editor. You'll notice when you look on here, and hopefully you can all see this, that this code that's in here is different colors. All right. Anything that's blue like that is a keyword. In other words, it can only be used in a certain way. And if you try to use it in another way, the system won't be able to understand what you're trying to do. All right. Now, you'll notice that some of the stuff in here is green. Those are comments. Those you put in for yourself or for other people so they've got an idea of what it is you're about to do. We will get into comments more as we get through this, but they're not really part of the program per se. The first thing that the compiler is going to do when it goes and compiles your program is it gets rid of all your comments and it actually gets rid of all your white space that you've got in here. Blank lines, tabs, etc. It gets rid of all that stuff. All right. You also have in here some built-in routines like convert, calculations, etc. Some of that stuff, and that's in a different kind of blue. All right. Again, if you want to know a little bit more about this than I'm giving you, you can always read the summary that's on the bottom of the page. All right. So here's the Solution Explorer, and I've already mentioned that to you. The Solution Explorer holds your solution. Only one solution at a time. That solution can have one or more projects in it. Each one of those projects can have, if it's a GUI, can have one or more forms in it. And again, don't memorize this stuff. It's not that big a thing. But the Solution Explorer, it's kind of like, and you probably won't be able to see this on your screen, but if you went down to the bottom of your screen and you right mouse clicked on the file thing that was there and you chose File Explorer, it would show you basically all the different files that you have in your system. And pretty much at least, that's what's happening here. All right. Pretty much that's what's happening right here. All right. All right. How to work with the different windows. Again, you can move this stuff around. This is a really busy picture. I get it. All right. But it's important that you kind of realize where stuff is, what stuff is, etc. What I will show you, not right now, but what I will show you in a little bit is how we can move these windows that are in here. So I'll do what they've done. I'll take the Solution Explorer and put it someplace else on the screen. Sometimes when that happens, it'll snap back into place real nicely. Sometimes just the opposite. So I'm going to show you how, after you do this, how you can go and have it revert back to the way it looked when we first saw it. Not hard to do. All right. How to change the version of .NET used. By default, we've got the newest version. We're using the latest and greatest, so don't worry about this page. All right. How to test, guess what? I've already shown you that. I showed you how to click that button that was up there. All right, it's not showing now, but it's that button that's over here. That green button to run the program. Okay. Now, you can build a project without running it. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to build something and not run it? Well, you could build a project and not run it because you might want to just see if it's got any errors when you try to build it. And you're like, well, what do you mean? You won't understand that until we go and run the programs. All right. All right, and that's it for the first chapter. Now, I went through a lot. It may or may not seem like it, but I went through a lot of stuff. Your head might be spinning, etc. I will tell you that it says before you do the exercises in this book, you won't be doing these exercises that are in the book. Why? Because what they give you from Muroc when you work on these is they give you the exercises and the answers. All right. So I'm going to be giving you different exercises. All right. But we got about 20 more minutes or so until our next break. So let's do this. All right. What I'd like everyone to do, please. Let's see. That's right. That's right. Is I'd like all of you right now, and I realize that's very hard to see, but I'd like you all to please go out to, and it's probably, you won't probably see this either, but I'd like you all to go out to code.visualstudio.com. All right, and I'll say it again. Again, I'm going to try to put this in here, make it big, but I don't think you're going to be able to see it. I'd like you all to go out to code, C-O-D-E, period, Visual Studio, one word, period, com. Code.visualstudio.com. So open up a new browser window. So, open up your browser. I'm going to recommend that in this program you use Chrome, but if you like Firefox, it'll work fine. If you got Safari running, it'll work fine. If you've got Edge, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can use that too. So code.visualstudio.com. When you get out there, it should look like this. Please don't go on because I don't want you to download everything. Is there anybody watching this right now that either couldn't understand what I was saying or can't get to this screen? All right, now you won't see what I'm about to do, but I'm going to come out here and I am going to uninstall my version of Visual Studio Code so I can reinstall it with all of you. So I'm going to go out here to my programs and I'm going to find, I can search for it, Visual Studio. And there it is, Visual Studio Community 2022. I'm going to right mouse click on that and choose uninstall. All right. This will take a couple seconds, but it's just going to get rid of everything I've got in there. So I want to start new, just like you know, so we're all going to be starting at it with a blank palette, so to speak. Now this is going to take a few seconds to uninstall. This is the only class for which you will use this, the Visual Studio program. So you shouldn't have to worry. And even if there's updates or whatever, you really shouldn't have to worry about anything. All right. They occasionally have Microsoft does come in with some updates and whatever, but it should be fine. All right, it's starting to go through the uninstall process right now, but it'll take a few minutes. So rather than wasting our time, what I'd like you to do then is if you look right here, and again, I'm assuming this is what your screen looks like. If I click the down arrow, you notice they have it for Mac, they have it for Windows, and they have it for Linux. Well, I'm hoping we're all using Windows here. So I'm just going to click that button that says download for Windows. All right. And what it puts in the, now for me, if you're using Chrome, in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, it's putting an executable file in there. All right. It is downloading to my downloads folder what I'll need in order to be able to put in Visual Studio. All right. But before I do that, I want to check. It's still doing it here. Let's see if it's still showing it. I'll have to go to my control panel here. And let's see if it's removed it. So it has not. Well, while we're waiting and I will be able to tell you this and actually show this to you in just a second. But again, we are downloading 3 pieces of software today. The first one that we're downloading is the one that we're doing now. All right. And that will be Visual Studio. All right. And again, we'll do that together in just a couple minutes. All right. The next one, because I want you to see what both of these are, is if we go out to github.com, G-I-T-H-U-B, GitHub, one word, .com. Yours is not going to look like this, but we're gonna set you up with a GitHub account, and then finally we're going to type in and we're going to download Git. I'm going to have to explain to you what each one of these things are. I will. All right. This will be a one-time thing. You only have to download GitHub once. You only have to download Git once. You only have to download Visual Studio once. You can, well, I don't know if you can see it on the screen or not, but mine is now just about 30% through with the uninstall. All right. I will tell you, this is a long install. It can take up to a half an hour, especially if you've got a slow internet connection. All right. That's why even if some of you don't have your, if it's still installing by the time we finish today, it shouldn't take that long. But if it is, all right, then we'll just start tomorrow and we'll write our 2 or 3 programs tomorrow as a class. It's no big thing one way or the other. So if you have not already done so, try to make sure you at least page through the stuff we went through today, all right, in chapter 1. And if you get the time, page through and take a quick look at what will be in chapter 2 and what will be in chapter 3. Because again, that's what we're going to do tomorrow. All right, then again, on Wednesday, when you come in here, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure you've all been emailed a copy of this pretest. All right. And the pretest, again, will be really, really, really similar to your first test. All right. And I will give you about an hour to work on that. You won't have to turn it in or anything else. It's for your benefit. And then after that hour, I will go over and write the entire test from scratch. Then again, on Thursday, all right, you will have your first test. And your first set of homework, your first set of labs, and your first written tests will be due 2 weeks from yesterday, which is September 4th. All right. Now, 2 weeks from today, just so you know this, there'll be no class because 2 weeks from today is Labor Day. The days that you will have off this semester will be Monday, the 5th of September, and that'll be Labor Day. You will also have off Friday, November 11th, because that's Veterans Day, and we always close for Veterans Day. And you will have off the 24th and 25th of November for the Thanksgiving break. And then we're done about the 15th or 16th of December. Now, my uninstall is now 85% of the way through. So ideally, it'll be done in about a minute or two. All right, is it 95%? 97, 99. All right, it says that it's done. That's good. All right. So now if I take a quick look, and I realize you don't probably even see this on the screen, but I want to double check. I'm going to go back to my control panel and double check just to make sure I don't have Visual Studio 2022 on here. So I'm starting exactly where you are. All right, and I do not have 2022 on here anymore. Okay, so I'm taking for granted that in the bottom left corner of your screen, or you can go in and you can click on your folder and you can go to, then you all know where your downloads folder is. All right, so if I go to downloads, there's Visual Studio Code. All right, and you'll notice it's 80 meg. And you will, well, that's not that big. Well, we haven't executed it yet. We haven't actually opened it up to run it yet. but it's pretty big. I don't remember the exact size. I think it'll show us when we get going. So you can either go to your downloads folder and double click on this file that says Visual Studio User Setup, or if it's still down here in your lower left-hand corner of your screen, you can right mouse click on it and tell it to open it. So I'm just going to double click on it here. All right, and I'm hoping you're going to be able to see what's on my screen right now. You probably can't, so let me try doing a screen share. I'll change my screen share so hopefully you can. So I was just in my downloads right here, in my downloads folder, and I double clicked on it, okay? And once I double clicked on it, I've got this setup screen right now, and hopefully that's what you see as well. You want to click where it says, I accept the agreement. There's a radio button there. And as soon as you click on that, click the button that says next. All right. Now it says select the additional tabs that you want. All right. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. If you want to create a desktop icon, you can check that one. But I'm just going to leave it all exactly the way it is right here under setup. And I'm going to click next again. Now it says click install to continue with the installation. All right. So I'm going to click install right there. Now it's extracting the files. It's not doing the install yet. I believe it's going to bring up the installer when it gets done here. All right, so it says here, completing the Visual Studio Code Setup Wizard. I'm hoping you can all see my screen, and I'm hoping you're following along on your screen. And if I'm going too fast, please say something. All right, so I'm going to click finish. And what did it do? Probably is doing is mine is probably going to be a little bit different than yours. Can you find on your thing right here? Can you find a thing here? It's probably down on the bottom part of your screen that says visual, when you put your mouse over it, it says Visual Studio Installer. So when you click on it, it looks like this. Can everybody see what I'm talking about? Is there anybody who's confused, lost, or whatever? All right, so I'm taking for granted that you've all got it there. And this is what I've got installed. Yours may be empty, and don't worry if it is. I want you to click on the thing that says available. Okay. And I'm looking in here. So I'm going down and down and down and down. I want you to find the one that says Visual Studio Community 2022. All right. So yours might go there right away. I've got some older versions loaded on mine, but I want you to find the one that says Visual Studio Community because that's the free one.
Professor, I can't see your screen.
You can't see my screen?
I think I'm
Okay.
following along, but I can't see yours.
All righty. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So like I said, yours might look like this. Yours might go right to 2022. All right. Because I've been working with this, as you can see, for 5 or 6 years. So if yours does look like mine, then scroll down until you find the Visual Studio Community 2022. All right. Once you find that, click on the word install, and it's going to bring up this. Now, do you see on your screen where does your screen look like mine? In other words, can you see my icons that I've got here?
Yes.
Okay,
How did you get to that visual community again? Can you show that real quick?
sure. So I was here. Yours might say Visual Studio Enterprise 2017. It may already say 2022. But all I'm doing is grabbing my scroll bar here and I'm scrolling down until I find Visual Studio Community 2022.
Mine went to a get started. Do I have to get through that before I get to that Visual Studio
You
install?
might.
Okay.
It's possible you do. Like I said, the problem is, even though I've got a bunch of stuff uninstalled in here, some of my system files, I've tried removing them and I just can't. So yours might look a little different than mine when we get started.
I might try. Whenever you mentioned it earlier, I have both versions installed, but whenever I first went to do it, I found it on visualstudio.microsoft.com, and it linked me directly to what is currently on screen. The other one, I also have the get started up in the corner, but I have both of them just sitting here, and I've
Okay.
swapped over to the one that you're showing now.
All right. Yeah, you should be good then. Yeah, again, there are plenty of different ways of doing this. If for some reason with any of you, so if one or more of you haven't spoken up or whatever, and you have problems, let me know. Because if that happens, what I'll do, just send me an email and I will do a separate video, and I will use a package called Camtasia that's not going to be on Teams, but I can put it on my YouTube channel, and there I can switch screens without any kind of problem. All right. Okay. So hopefully everybody has found the Visual Studio Community 2022, and you click the word install. And it looks like this. Now there's a bunch of stuff here we do not need. In fact, there's more stuff here that we do not need than there is that we do need. Okay. Let's see. We don't need ASP.NET web development. We don't need Azure. We don't need Python. We don't need node development. We don't need this multi-platform thing. We do want .NET desktop development. So that's the first one you should check. It says .NET desktop development. And you may have noticed now we get a bunch of stuff checked over here, and the size of our download just went from 1.1 meg to 1.1 gig to 6.6 gig. So it got a lot bigger. We're not done though. We're going to scroll down. We don't need any of this stuff. We don't need the desktop, etc. We don't need any of this. Now, if you're interested, a lot of games are created with C and C++ and C#. You can add the Unity one if you want to. I'm not going to. The only other one here that I'm going to add is the one that says data storage and processing. It's got a little picture of what's supposed to be a database right there. I'm going to check that one. And now it went up to 7.43 gig. There is nothing else that we're checking. So to go back and review, I checked the one that says .NET desktop development, and I checked the one that said data storage and processing. All right. If you've got those two checked, then you can click, and you should be able to just click the install button and it'll go through the process. Now, with that said, I mentioned this before, this will depend on your internet connection. This may take you the rest of today's class period. All right, this may take you the rest of today's class period, or it may take 15 minutes. All right. It is 9:50. As promised, at 10 minutes to the hour all the time, I'm giving you a 10-minute break. So let's take a break and let's come back at right at 10 o'clock, and we're going to install Git and we're going to install GitHub. All right. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, I'm going to start back up again. And I guess I have to ask this. Can you all see my Video Studio installer screen on your screen right now?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll see that I now have Visual Studio Community 2022 here. If for some reason I decided I wanted to download something else that I didn't download, I could go into the modify and I could change it. All right. I can launch it from here. There's no reason to launch it from here, but I could do that too. Notice there's release notes, and there's, there's this more thing in here, where you can uninstall it from here, etc. So I'm just going to leave this the way that it is. All right. So mine is now installed. All right. Again, if yours is still installing, don't worry about it. It's totally fine. But I'm going to close this window now. Now, I can close the installer window now. Now, I'm going to have to change this. So I'm going to change my share. And I really believe me, I do appreciate it when I forget to fix my share or whatever. I appreciate you letting me know right away. So let's see. All righty. So stop sharing and start again. Bringing up the wrong one. All right. Do you now see on your screen? I just highlighted, it says Visual Studio download. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, good. So this is what we've done so far. We went out here and we did this. All right, I'm going to change the order of this. I'd like you to go out to here right now, if you would, please. Get-scm.com/downloads. All right. And again, we're going to download Git now. This literally should take a matter of probably 30 seconds to a minute, even with a slow connection. But I've got it on here. And again, I'm very quickly, you won't see this, but I'm going to go over to my control panel and I'm going to remove the Git that I have on my machine right now. The uninstall should take very little time. There, it's already been uninstalled on my machine. So just like I asked you to do, all right, just exactly, like I asked you to do, where is that? Come on. I'm going to go out to right here, right now. Get-scm.com/downloads. I think it'll even go there if you don't put in the /downloads, but that's fine. So I'm going to highlight this, copy it to my clipboard. I am going to come out and change my screen share so that I start sharing again and I go back to the internet. All right. And that should bring me right here. Do you see the Git download page on your screen?
Yep.
Okay. About as easy as you can imagine. The latest is 2.37.2. So click the button, please, that says download for Windows. If you've already got Git because you know what it is and you've already done it or whatever, you don't have to redo it. That's fine. I will tell you, when you look on your screen right here where it says download for Windows, we're about to do this. But there is an entire free online book on how to use Git. I'm going to go over the major Git commands very shortly with you, maybe not today, but probably almost by tomorrow, so you see them. All right. But if you want to know more, you can literally read this book online. Now, my guess is that you're all running a 64-bit machine. If your machine is 5 years old or less, you are. All right. So I'm going to click on the standalone installer, and I'm going to click where it says 64-bit Git for Windows setup, and just literally click on that. And again, it's going to go into my downloads folder. It's going to put an executable file, just like we had before. So I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to choose open. Now you may or may not see this. I don't know. All right. But it's asking me for authority. I click yes. And now it's coming in, and it's going through the install process with me. Can you see my window here that says GNU General Purpose Public License? Can you see that or not?
We cannot.
All right. When you go in and you tell it to open, you should be able to see that on your screen. So let's see.
We could see your screen with the internet still up, but that window wasn't appearing on our end.
All right. You see that window now?
I don't see anything from you now.
Okay, well, that ain't good. So let's fix that. It's one thing I hate about Teams. They don't allow you to go back and forth easily between multiple windows. So let's see. All right. You should eventually, when you open this, get to there should be a little dialog box that comes up. On the top, it says information. And then it says in big letters, GNU General Public License. All right. Everybody should come up with a matter of minutes, if not seconds. You click next, and all we're going to do is keep using all the defaults. So I click next once, twice, and mine says it already has one. Would I like to install it to that folder anyway? I'm going to say yes, you shouldn't get that. Next again, next again. All right. And that'll bring us to where it says choose your default editor. All right. Have I lost anybody, or are you going through this with me?
I think we're all good.
All right. When you get down to the point where it says choose the default editor, it actually doesn't matter. You can go down in that list if you want and choose Visual Studio if you want to, but you don't even have to. It doesn't matter what gets picked there. You can just click next again. And where it says let GI decide, or get decide rather, next again, next again, next again, and 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 install. So that's a big pain in the butt for clicking that every single time. Now, again, it's going to depend on the speed of your machine. Mine's already done the install. I don't need to launch it. I don't need to view the release notes. So I'm going to uncheck both of those and click finish. All right. Now I want to go and I want to bring up my file explorer because you'll see real fast whether or not this works. All right. So I'm going to go back to share, and I'm going to change my share here. All right. Can you all see my desktop up here right now?
Yep.
Okay. Now I'm on my desktop, so I'm just going to quickly add a new folder just so I've got, because I don't want to ruin anything I've got here. So I'm going to right mouse click, choose new and folder. There it is down there. I'm just going to call it hello. Doesn't matter. I don't care what's in there. It's an empty folder anyway. You don't have to do this. You can literally open up any folder that you have on your desktop. So mine's empty, but what I want you to do then is to right mouse click and tell me if you see Git GUI here and Git Bash here.
All good on my end.
Good,
I've
All
got that.
good here.
good. Because if you've got that, you now have Git on your machines. That's how easy that was. Now, I will tell you that if you go through that Git book, you don't have to. You don't have to ever look at it. But if you go through it, it explains in there how you can use the GUIized version of this. All right, I'm not going to do that. What you're going to find that I'm going to use in here virtually all the time is Git bash. I'm going to do this from a command line. So it's going to look, from a command line. All right, and don't worry about it even if you don't understand what that means. It's okay. All right, now I'm going to change my share again back to the internet. And you can now close the window that you had open for Git. And now I'm going to go out to github.com. That's what I want you to do. All right. I hate doing this because I always forget my password, but I am going to sign out. Yours should look like this, something like this. Do you see what I see?
Yes.
All right. Now, I'm only going to be able to take you to a certain point here. I've tried doing the sign up before, and all it did was it screwed up my GitHub account. So I want you to click the button up here that says sign up, or you can put your email address in. This is the easiest, to just click sign up right there. And you get this, welcome, enter your email. I'm going to ask that you please use your Rankin Technical College email, not a Gmail, not a Hotmail, not a Yahoo or whatever. Use your actual email address from Rankin, which should be your first name underscore your last name at insiderankin.org. All right, all in lowercase. So I could come in here and I'll just put in my charter email, which is jpscott@charter.net. All right, and then after you put in that, click continue. Now it says it's invalid, it's already taken. Okay, so I'm just going to put in jpscott@yahoo.com. I don't have that, but I'm going to put that in there anyway. And click continue. All right, then it tells you to create a password. Do not forget this password. All right, if you click the little I there, so if I come in here and I type in, hello 123, it's going to show it. And if I don't have the I there, it'll look like this. All right. This isn't that big a thing where you have to auto generate a password or anything, but I'm just going to come in here just so you see it. I'm going to put in here, I don't know. GitHub rocks and rolls. Something like that. So notice it says, make sure it's at least 15 characters. All right. Or at least 8 characters, including an et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you copy that, put it on your desktop or whatever. All right. They do have a recovery system, but I've had problems with it. So it's just important that you have that. All right. Then click continue, enter a username. This is, I would ask that you put in here. So let's say your name is John Smith. I would ask that you put in here John_Smith, something like that for your username. Now, if it's taken, you'll have to put in something else. But what I've had in the past for usernames, I've asked people to put in, add inside Rankin. You can put that in too. That's probably not going to be taken. All right, your first name underscore. But a couple people told me they had problems with the underscore. Other people got it to work with no problem whatsoever. All right, so I'm just going to leave this. So John Smith, whoops. Like that. Once you put in a username, click continue again. Username may contain only alphabetic characters or single hyphens, cannot begin or end with a hyphen. All right, so it doesn't like that. So I'll just put in, you can do the same, like John Smith Rankin. That'll work. Notice it says it is available. Click continue again. and it says, would you like to receive product updates? That's totally up to you. I'm going to put an N in there for no and click continue again. And it says, please solve this puzzle to verify that you are human. Click start puzzle to continue. This is all new. I've never seen this before. Pick the spiral galaxy. Yours could be different. So I'm going to click on there. All right, pick it again on there. All right, and it says it's cool. Then click create account. I'm not going to click that because I do not want to create an account for me on a Yahoo that I don't have using John Smith. But when you do that, you should get a message back that the account was created. So please go through that and let me know if you have any problems. So I'm just going to get out of this. I'm going to go back to my regular GitHub there. They change this kind of thing all the time, so it may come back and tell you that they're going to send you an email to whatever email address you used, and you've got to verify it on there. They may send you a code. There's all sorts of things that can potentially happen here. Is there anybody, are you still waiting for your accounts, or did it set up an account for you?
On the screen, right after the verification from the email, it says how many team members will you be working with? You just want to put just me?
I would just put in a 1 there or something like that. Like I said, that's another thing. They used to not have that. But
Okay.
that is so, for instance, you could set up your own server, your own Discord server, and you could all share stuff if you needed to do that. There shouldn't be a reason that you have to do that, though. Anybody else? Questions, problems? All right, so I'm taking for granted that that worked and it went okay at least. All right. Now, hopefully soon when you go back into GitHub, or it's showing you that right now, your screen will look a little more like mine. You can see I've already got a bunch of stuff created here. Why is this even important? All right, because GitHub is how you are going to receive information from me. GitHub is how you are going to send information to me. And if you say, I don't understand, that's what we're going to go through in just a second. But before we go through that, I want to show you what we're about to do. All right. So let me go in here and let's see. I'll keep that up and I'll go to desktop. I want to close a couple of these things that I've got open here because it's just going to make it much easier. When I'm opening things, there's so doggone many things to open and close. So that's, what else do I have open here? That, and that. Yeah, just like I said, I've just got so doggone much stuff open here. All right, hopefully that's going to be enough. All right, so let me come in here. Stop sharing, start sharing again. And I'm going to go to my desktop. All right. So am I right in assuming that you're all here? You can see my desktop now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
All right. In a couple minutes, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to go out to GitHub and pull down from GitHub this folder right here that's called AWD1100 fall 2022 your name. And what's in there, and hopefully you can see this again, yours won't look exactly like this because you won't have the get thing in there, but I'm going to show you how to put it in just a moment. All right. But this is all the applications that are in your book. This is the database that's shown in your book. This is all the homework, the exercises that you're going to have. This is empty because that's where you'll end up putting your hands-on tests. These will be all the lab assignments that we'll have. These are the PowerPoint slides that are in your book. Again, I think I told you this already, but on the off chance I did not, I have already done presentations on every chapter in here, except I think the last one or the last two. All right. So you've already got those out on my YouTube channel. If you ever want to see those. And if you say, I don't care, then don't watch them. It's totally fine. These are your written tests right here. And let's see, this syllabus. And here are the major Git commands. This is what we're going to be copying over in just a moment. All right, we're going to try this and we're going to see whether or not it works. All right. So what I'd like all of you to do, please, is to go onto your desktop. All right, I'd like you all to go onto the desktop and from your desktop, come in here and create a new folder. Lots of ways you can do this. The easiest way, I think, is to right mouse click, choose new, and choose folder. All right, and that'll create a brand new folder for you down probably at the bottom, and it's going to call it new folder. I want you to change the name of that folder, and I'll show you exactly what it should look like in a second. All right. All right. Can you see on your screen right now? AWD1100 hyphen fall 2022 hyphen your name. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Please replace this with your name. Your first name followed by your last name. And if you got a nickname, so if your name is, for Nicholas, if you want to type in Nick, I don't care. So again, I would do this, even though I'm Jeffrey Paul Scott, I wouldn't put in this. That's too much. So I would put it in like this. I don't care about middle names. So that's what mine would look like. All right. Anybody have any problem with that? All right. Then what I want you to do is to double click on that new folder that you just put in there. Double click on that. And I got to get back and change my picture again. So let's see. All right. So now you got this empty folder open in here. All right. And I want you to right mouse click in that folder. Right mouse click in that folder. And I want you to choose Git Bash here. Right mouse click and choose Git Bash here. You'll get a window that comes up. You can resize it if you want to. All right, and I want to change my screen so I can show you that window. All All right, so your window should look something like this. Your path, of course, will be different, but it should look something like this. All right, and again, you can use your wheel and make this bigger, smaller, etc. as you need to. All right, now I've got to jump out for just a second, and I've got to grab a file in here because I want to give you the right commands. Okay, now you're going to have to put in 2 commands right now, and they're going to look very similar. You only have to do this once. For lack of better words, this is you introducing yourself to the world of Git and GitHub. So the first command you will put in will look like this. Hold on. So please type in that, but again, do not put in my name, put in your name in double quotes. Git space config space minus global space double quote and your name double quote. And after you put that in and hit enter, okay, it says key does not contain a section. Hold on. Doggone it, I just copied that over. Okay, I wasn't complete, sorry. Oh my goodness. All right, let me try that again. That was correct. So type in git space config space minus global space user.name space and your name in double quotes. Exactly what I've got here in gray, but don't put in my name, put in your name. Hit enter. If it comes back and it shows you just your prompt, it worked. You only have to do that once. If you had any problems, please let me know. All right, so not hearing anything, I'm taking for granted that that worked for everybody. Then we've got to put in the rest of this, okay? And what I want you to type in is this, but at the end in double quotes, put in your Rankin email. So again, mine is jpscott@rankin.edu. Yours is john_smith@insiderankin.org or whatever. So put in this line. That lets Git and GitHub know your username. And even if you put in something different than what you put in before, it doesn't matter. This is the key one. It's the email address that you want to associate this with. When you get done with that, hit enter. And again, if you get your prompt back, then everything worked. Questions, problems with anything?
All good over here.
Good. All right, I'm taking for granted that if it wasn't good for somebody, you're going to let me know. All right. Now, you don't have to do this, but right now, if you ever want to clear the screen, it's just clear. Okay. But if I come through here and I type in dir right now, there's nothing in this folder. I haven't put anything in the folder yet. There is nothing in this folder. All right. But I want to prepare it. So I want it to be able to have what's literally referred to, so you may not be able to see it. Don't worry if you can't. an invisible folder called .git. How do I do that? I want to start up a Git session right now. So I want you to type in git space init and hit enter. And you should get a message similar to the one that I just got. So we have put in this holds all of your system files that Git needs in order to be able to do its thing. All right, not hearing anything. I have to take it for granted that what I'm telling you is at least somewhat making sense. Every single time that you come in here and you're going to email me something, you're going to have to do another git init. You will never, ever have to do the setting up the username and the user email again, unless you were to uninstall Git and then reinstall it. All right. I don't know why you'd ever want to do that other than like I did it to just show you what was going on. All right. Now, give me just a second here because, again, I want to check in here. I want to check and make sure I'm giving you the right syntax. All right. What I'm going to show you is probably not the best way to do it, but again, I'm always in favor of doing things in the most intuitive way possible. What we're doing right now, hopefully it'll work. Again, we only have to do this once. All right. So what I'd like you to do is all of you, and I know you can't see it on my screen, but go out to your github.com. If if you've closed it before, you'll have to open it again. There we go. Already have an account signed in. Thank you. All right. So I'm hoping that what I'm about to show you, I'm hoping it all works. And if it does, we're doing great. And if it doesn't, we'll figure out what the problem is. All right. Do you all see my GitHub window on screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure do.
Okay. Let's see. I gotta go and let's see. JP's got Rankin. Recent activity. Come on. There we are. All right. And I apologize for this. I don't know any other way of doing this. All right. But just because, like I said, with Teams, it's really hard to have multiple windows open. All right. So I'm constantly switching back and forth between all these windows. But like I said, if there's a better way of doing it, I don't know what that better way is. All right. So I'm going to have to switch again. And again, the good news is we should only have to do this once. All right. All right. Can you now see an email address or address in here that starts with https://github.com/Jeff, JP Scott Rankin, etc. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. While you're in GitHub, put that into your address bar. While you're in GitHub, put that into your address bar. I made this public, so you all should be able to see this. And after you put it into your address bar, hit the Enter key. After you put it into your address bar, hit the Enter key. Sorry, I guess it probably just went away, so let's bring it back. There. Right? All right, I'm going to change my screen, my share on my screen right now. Can you now all see my screen up here? It says JP Scott Rankin, AWD. You see, are you where I am?
Yep.
All right. Then what I want you to do, this is all the stuff that you're going to need for this class, but I want you to be able to download it in one swoop. So in other words, I want you to click this green button here that says code, and I want you to go down to the bottom and choose download zip. All right, so click the green button that says code and then choose download zip. And it should download everything that I put out there. It should download it to your downloads folder. Again, I'm going to keep going until somebody tells me that something's not working or whatever. All right. So let me change my screen again. All right, so there it is in my downloads folder. Now, I want to take the zipped copy right there, and I want to take it and put it onto my desktop and extract it or open it. The easiest way to do that from here is to right mouse click on the file name, drag it over to my desktop, let go, and choose extract. And then it says, where do you want to extract it to? I'm going to use the default, which is my desktop, and click extract. Then it should be going and copying everything over. This is about, I think, a couple hundred meg that I've given you. You might get a message, unexpected error. And if you get that, just click skip. If you do get any errors, just click skip. There should be no problem with that. Ideally, it'll take just a couple seconds, and you should now have that folder in your desktop. So here's mine. And it says AWD, et cetera, your name master. Okay. All right. Double click on that folder. And it'll open up probably another folder with the same name. Double click on that folder. Now you've got all this. And again, I'm going to assume that you see everything I'm showing you right now. If you don't, right now mine shows book applications, database, homework, labs, slides, written tests, the syllabus, and a Git command list. If you've got all that showing, just click in an empty area that's in here and do a Control A. So hold down on your Control key, which is in the bottom left-hand corner of your keyboard, and tap the letter A. That'll highlight all of this. Then do a Control C, and that'll copy it to your clipboard. So do a Control A, Control C. All right, it's all now in your clipboard. Go back to your desktop and drop that into the one that you created with your name on it. So right mouse click then and choose paste and put it in there. And now you should have everything that you need for the book applications, the database that's in the book, your homework assignments, your lab assignments, the slides, and an empty folder that says written tests. If you
I'm sorry. What did you say to do if it said there's an error during the extraction?
Then just click skip.
Okay, thank you.
And for those of you who are watching this asynchronously, in other words, for those of you who are watching this on the tape, if you run into any problems with this, any problems, just email me. We can set up a team session or do whatever we need to do in order to get it to be able to work. All right. I will tell you, this is a lot more information about me than you care about, but on Mondays and Wednesdays, I've been trying off and on, more off, for the last 20 years to play guitar. And I take guitar lessons from 5 to 6 on Mondays and Wednesdays. And right after I get done with the lessons, I come home. And it's about a 15-minute drive. The reason I'm telling you that is normally by 6:30, I'll be online every night. And I stay on from 6:30 until 9 o'clock. So, whether you are watching this live or watching the tape, if you ever want to drop me an email because you're having problems with anything, let me know, please. Anybody who was not able to do all this? All right, well, that's a great start. I mean, we've got everything set up for us, and that's good. All right. So what we're going to do, this is going to be unbelievably simplistic. I don't care. What I want you to do is on your desktop, let's make another folder. All right, let's make an empty folder on your desktop. We're not going to worry about Git or GitHub or anything with this. Make a new folder, and we're just going to call this test. We've already got something called test. It doesn't matter what you call it. I'm just calling mine test. Totally fine. All right, you don't have to open it. You don't have to do anything with it. But I want you to create a new folder that's either called test or something like test. All right. Then the next thing I want you to do is, I'm taking for granted, because nobody has said otherwise, that you're all using Windows machines. And in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, the bottom left-hand corner, you probably have a little box that says type here to search or something like that. All right. So click inside of that box and type in there Visual space Studio space 2022. And it should show your Visual Studio right there. All right. Now, I'm going to recommend, if you see this, and I know you're not seeing my screen right now. I get it. But if you get all that stuff to come up, I would recommend that towards the bottom right, you choose the pin to taskbar that's on there. So it's on the bottom of your screen, so you can open it up at any time. If you don't want to do that, it's fine. But otherwise, just click where it says Visual Studio 2022. If you put your mouse over that on the right-hand side, it'll look like a hyperlink. And if you click on it, it'll start up Visual Studio for you. Now I'm going to change my share so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. All right. Now, I'm hoping yours looks like mine and it says sign into Visual Studio. You don't have to create an account. If it should say sign in, create an account, and skip this for now. Choose the skip this for now. So just click that little thing right there. Now, what you do next is up to you. This is your background. Do you want a dark background with light text? Do you want a blue background, etc.? I'm going to pick light. You don't have to, but I'm picking light because when I make tapes, I've been told that this one comes out the best when I'm trying to make a tape. So I chose light, and now I'm choosing start Visual Studio. And for the first time for you, you are now starting Visual Studio. All right, and again, if I'm going too fast or if something doesn't make sense, please stop me. All right. If you are where I am here, where it says Visual Studio 2022 and you've got your opens and stuff, click where it says create a new project. Click down here where it says create a new project. If you cannot see that on my screen, please let me know. So create a new project. I'm going to click on there. That'll bring this up. And I want you to type into this search box right here the word console.
I don't see your screen right now.
All right. So back up. Do you see my Visual Studio 2022 screen here? I am taking that to be a no, so let's.
Yeah, I don't know about anyone else, but I can't
Now
see anything
that's
that you're
fine.
sharing.
Yeah,
I want to
there's
make sure
not a
you
screen.
can. So can you see it now?
Oh, it's loading something. There it is.
All right. So when this comes up, choose create a new project. Now, do you see my create a new project window?
Yep.
You see,
Yeah.
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 Yes. All right. So when it says search for templates, click in that search box and type in there the word console, CONSOLE. All right. And we want to choose the one that says consoleapp.net framework. But the one that says that with C# in there, with C with a pound sign. So I've got 5 of them showing. It's the third one down right there. Questions? All right. Then you can either double click on this or single click like I did and choose next. Either way is going to get you to right here. Don't type anything in yet. Are you all at the configure your new project? Only say something if you're not there. All right. We're going to call this project Test Console. One word. Run the 2 words together. Capital T, little EST, capital C, little ONSOLE. Don't hit enter yet. Just stop right there. All right. Now for location, we're going to pick that folder we just created on the desktop. So click the ellipsis right here and choose desktop test. Once you put in desktop and test, there'll be a button down in the lower right-hand corner that says select folder. Click that button and it should change here. So you should now have here test console and then your path to your test folder. And then the solution name should also be test console. Change the name of your solution from test console so that it just says test. So I've got up here for the project name test console, one word, capital T, lower or capital C, everything else lowercase. My location is that test folder I just created. My solution name is test. The framework is fine. So click create. And if your screen ends up looking similar, hopefully it's going to look just like mine in just a second. It may take a couple seconds, but if it looks like this, you're golden. Can you see my screen right now? I just highlighted where it says using system. Can everybody see that? Anybody just yell yes or no?
Nope.
All right, then I want to change to make sure you can. Now can you?
Yep.
Okay.
That's good now.
All right. I'm going to run over by 1 minute because we're going to create our first program and then we're taking a break. Go down here where it says static void main, right there. We're going to type in about 3 lines of code. That's it. So come in here, hit enter, type in, oops, console dot right line my first program. At the end of that line, put in a semicolon. Then in the next line, type in console dot read line. And it is case sensitive, so it's expecting it to have this caseness that you see right here. Once you have those 2 lines put in, come up to File up here in your menu, way up on the top left-hand corner, go to File and choose Save All. Or you can click the disk icon. There's a Save All there, the second one. Or there's a weird keyboard combination, which is Control plus Shift plus S. All right. If you've got all this, now come up and click the little green arrow here that says Start. Click that arrow. And if it comes up after you've done that, you're not going to see it on mine probably, but on yours, if it comes up and it says, my first program, congratulations, you just wrote your first program. Now you are in what's called run mode right now. I'm in run mode right now. If I want to get out of run mode and stop running my program, look on the screen, there'll be a little red box up here and it says stop debugging. If I click that box, now I'm not running my program anymore. All right. It is 10:52. Let's take a break and we'll come back at 11:02. I'll see you then. All right, I'm going to start back up. I don't expect you to understand any of the stuff that we just typed in, but I am going to take about 5 minutes to just go over it and give you a high-level overview. So again, if you have questions on the things I'm asking, feel free to stop me at any time. All right, but like I said, I just want to go over a couple of these things. All right, first of all, you'll notice that line 1 here is blackened where these lines are grayed. That means we're using this one because it's in black. We're not using these because they're in gray. So technically, we can remove them. You don't have to, but we can remove them. All right. Next, we see a thing here that says namespace test console. This is kind of equivalent to our project. So project followed by the name of our project, which is test console. All right. Now, I don't want to throw too much stuff at you. C# is what's known as an object-oriented programming language, which means it uses objects for just about everything. And what's an object? An object is an instance of what's called a class. And if you're confused, think about it this way. Imagine that you bought, you were going to build a house and you bought a plot of land. All right. And so you've gone in there and you've decided, I want this house on here. I'm going to build a 2-bedroom or a two-story house with 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, etc., and all the goodies. And so you did all that. Well, chances are pretty good that you wouldn't just start on that day and just start digging. You might want to hire an architect, and that architect might want to draw up a plan of what the house would look like. That plan is the equivalent of a class. So if that architect went and not only made that plan for you, but maybe somebody down the street wanted to build the same kind of house, you would each have a house object. So those objects, an object is an instance of a class. Well, don't worry about internal right now. It would take too long to explain it. But we're working with a class that's called program. And that's everything that's in here. So our namespace, if you noticed when you looked here, our namespace has got a beginning curly brace here, ending curly brace here. So everything that's in our namespace is in here. Everything that's in our class is in here. Everything that's in this special method that's called main is in here. So when we run the program, what we do is we tell the system, hey, what I want to do is I want to run this thing called main. And what does that do? Well, it writes on the screen, my first program. And if I left this line off, it would write it, boom, your screen would clear because it writes it and boom, it just clears. But this says, write this on the screen. And then this tells it to stop and wait until I hit any key. That's your whole first program. Now there's not much to that. I get it. I know you get it. But even explaining it took enough time. All right. The other thing I want to just mention quickly before we go on is this word system. If I took this line and I commented it out, how do I comment it out? I put 2 forward slashes at the beginning. Now notice when I do that, how I get errors here. Because now I have to type in the word system myself. And now my errors went away. But by putting in here using system, it's a little bit of a shortcut. It's not going to give me an error. I can still put that in, but now I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to show you one more shortcut because this is not in your book. All right, underneath this line that says using system, I'm going to type in using static, all in lowercase, and then system.console, like that. You can do this if you want, you don't have to. But I put in a new line here that says using static system.console. Why did I do that? Now I don't need to use the word console with a period. So by putting in those two using statements, I cut down the amount of code that I had to put in here. You see there's no errors. And if I do a file save all, and if I run it again, it'll work just like it did before. All right. And again, all I'm doing is just giving you the stuff. I'm giving you a high level overview here. If it doesn't make much sense, don't worry about it, please. All right. So let's see. I want to write one more program, but I want to write a GUI one that does pretty much exactly what this just did. It'll look almost exactly the same, except it'll be in a graphical format. So how do I do that? All right. The first thing I can do is I can close this one. I don't need this anymore, so I can close it. Boom. Now it's closed. So now this looks like this. So right now I've got a solution, and it's got a project in it. The project is called Test Console. It's got some system files that are under properties. It's got some more system files that are under reference. It's got an app.config file if we were going to be using databases. And it's got this program.cs file. That's the one that's got my code in it. That's what's in there. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to create a second project. And I realize, again, I don't know any way to make this screen here bigger. But right up here, I want you to single click one time on the word solution. Single click one time on the word solution. After you do that, then right mouse click on the word solution and choose add and choose new project. I'm going to leave that there so you can see it. I right mouse clicked on the word solution, then I chose add and new project. And I'm going to choose that by clicking on it. This by now should look familiar to you. I don't want another console one. Instead, up in the search bar here, I want to type in Windows Form. And I want you to choose the Windows Forms app.NET framework that's got the word C# by it. Windows Forms app, and then in parentheses, .NET framework, and the one with C# by it. You can either double click on that or single click and choose next. And that gets you here. It already knows where to save this. It's going to save it to my test solution. That's where we want it to go. But I want to change the name of this. This one will be called Test GUI. Capital T, lowercase est, capital G, capital U, capital I. Quite often when I create the same application and do it both as a console app and as a GUI app, I'll give it the same name, except one will have console on the end and one will have GUI on the end. So I've got test GUI here, the location, the framework's fine, and I'm going to click create. And if yours looks something like this, that's good. You might have your toolbox showing here, you might not, etc. Don't worry about it. I want my toolbox to show. So I'm going to click view up here and I'm going to choose toolbox, which is about 2/3 of the way down. And you notice this looks pretty ugly because I'm now cutting off part of my screen. So how do I get that so it's not cut off? I go up to the top here and right to the left of the X, there's a little push pin and it's called auto hide. And if you click that, now notice it pushed everything over. So now as I make this bigger or smaller, it shows my entire window. Now, I'm going to take for granted I did that too fast. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to totally get rid of my toolbox and I'm going to add it back again. So I'm going to click View, go down to Toolbox. And if the push pin isn't showing, it'll look like this. And then click that little pin. All right. Now, I've got the wrong, I was doing some database work up here, so mine isn't showing the right thing. So let me fix that. There we go. All right. And my pin, there we are. All right. Now, yours may look like this. Yours may not look like this. And either way, it's totally fine. The one that I use almost exclusively when I do this is the one that says all Windows forms. And I click that down arrow and it shows me all the different controls I can put on the screen. All of them there. I'm going to put two controls on the screen and they're both the same control. I'm going to put two buttons on my screen. You can do this in two ways if you look up on the screen here. All right, I'm taking for granted you can all see this. Okay, so you can either double click on the word button and that puts it, whoops, try it again. Double click on the word button. All right, then click. I don't like doing it like that. So what I'm going to do, I don't even want that. So I'm going to delete it. I'm going to click on button with my left mouse button, drag it over here and let go. And then I'm going to do it again. So there's my interface. I've got two buttons. One says button 1 and one says button 2. Right now, pretty doggone ugly looking interface. Okay. Now I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to click my left mouse button over here someplace. I'm going to hold down on it. I'm going to draw an invisible square around those two buttons. Now they're both highlighted so I can move them up on my screen. That looks a little better. Now I'm going to shrink the size of my window because it's actually too big. All I'm doing is just clicking on these little things that are on the sides here. So there's that. There's my interface. And it looks okay. It's not by no means is it good, but it looks okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I don't like this to say the word form on it. All right, so this is my first program. So I want this to say my first program. So I'm going to click in an empty area. This is my form here, the thing in gray. I'm going to click in there in an empty area anywhere. And down here, I'm going to find where it says text, which is about halfway down. There it is. Maybe it's a third of the way down. And I'm going to change it. So I'm going to highlight it and click in here. And I'm going to change it. So instead of it saying Form 1, I want it to say my first program. And then hit enter. Watch when I hit enter how this changes from Form 1 to my first program. And it just changed. All right. We actually don't have real much to do here, but I'm going to show you a couple things. The first thing is this is pretty doggone ugly the way it is. So I'm going to click on the form again, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to find back color. It's up right near the top, back color. And it says control. And I'm going to click on that box that's there. And then I'm going to click on the little down arrow that comes up here. And I'm going to choose custom. I'm going to assume I did that too fast. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to click here on an empty part of the form. I'm going to click on the box that says back color. I'm going to click on the down arrow that comes up. Now I'm going to choose custom. And you can go to town here. I'm going to grab the one that's orange. You can grab any one you want. And you can see how it changed the background color of my form. All right. I'm going to do 3 more things, and then I'm going to add my code to make this thing work. The first thing I'm going to do is you should never name your form 1.cs. That's a terrible name. It's too generic. This is my first program, so I'm going to rename this FRM for form first program. So I'm going to click over here where it says form 1. Don't double click because it'll open a code window. We can fix that if you did it accidentally. But I'm going to single click on this. Then I'm going to right mouse click on it. So again, I'm single clicking on it, right mouse clicking, and I'm going to choose rename. Single click on where it says form1.cs, then right mouse click on it, then choose rename. And you'll notice it lets me rename everything, but it keeps the .cs on the end. That's what I want. So I'm going to call this little FRM, and then first with a capital F, program with a capital P. So I'm changing the name from form1.cs to FRM first program.cs. After I put in that, I hit enter, and it's going to ask me, hey, do you want to change every reference of form1.cs to FRM first program.cs? Yes, I do. So I click the yes button. Nothing magical happened except it renamed all these. All right. Now I'm going to do a similar thing with my 2 buttons. So I'm going to click on this button right here, the one that says button 1. I'm going to single click on it. And then over in my properties window, that's over here, and I can make this wider by just clicking and dragging over. All right. I'm going to find for this, the first thing I'm going to find is the text. And right now, the text on this, or it says button 1. Well, that's a dumb name. So I'm going to type in there the word calculate. And I hit enter, and notice it changed to calculate. So I've gone in and changed the text in the button, but I also want to change the button's name. So I got to find name. And it should be little btn and then calculate. When you are naming these controls, which are what these are, no blank spaces. So I've got a little btn, and then I appended to that the word calculate with a capital C. All right, so that's all been changed. Now I'm going to click on my next button. And again, it doesn't matter the order in which you do this. So I'm going to change the name to btn, little btn, capital E, little xit, btn exit, and hit enter. And then I'm going to go down to my text, and I'm going to change the text from button 2 to the word exit. So now I've got an interface. I've got a form that's been renamed with a nice title on it. I've got my controls on here. There's just 2 of them. One is a button that says calculate. One is a button that says exit. All right. But what I'd really like to do is right now, if I click on this button, I can move it anywhere I want. And I don't want to do that. I want to lock this interface into place so it doesn't move. I like it right where it is. So I'm going to, again, draw one of these invisible lines by holding down on the left mouse button and then dragging, holding down on the left mouse button, then dragging, and now they're both highlighted. Now I'm going to right mouse click on either button, doesn't matter, and I'm going to choose lock controls and hit enter, or just click it. Now my interface is locked into place. I cannot move these. See that? Right? We're almost done. All we have to do is add a couple lines of code, and that's it. Then we're done with the program. All right. The first thing that we want to do is we want to put in, well, I am going to double click on my calculate button. And it brings up a code window for my calculate button when I click it. Well, I don't want to put that in yet. I could put it, yeah, we can put it in first. That's fine. We're going to put in this. And don't worry about what this means. You're going to see all of it in just a second. All right, so I'm going to put in here message box.show, and I'm going to put my first program. I'm going to hit enter. You don't have to, but I want you to be able to see all of it. All right, that's everything. So I'll pause for a moment and let you type that in. The stuff in red is not case sensitive. Everything that's in blue here and in black is case sensitive. So you've got to type it in. If you type it in just like I did, you're best off.
Hey, I'm sorry, I got lost a little along the way. I was trying to play a little bit catch up.
All right.
I'm on the locking the boxes in place.
Okay, that's fine.
Can you
just go back to here after? Did you lock them?
No, that's where I'm. That's
Okay,
where I'm at.
so take your mouse, click over here someplace or over here someplace, but I'll click here. Hold down on the left mouse button, drag. This is called lassoing the controls.
Yep.
All right. When you let go, they should be highlighted. Yours won't have the little lock thing on it, but if you right mouse click on either button and choose lock controls, that'll lock them.
Okay.
And believe me, I'm being serious for all of you. If you fall behind, let me know. I never try to go too fast, but occasionally I do once I get going. Did that work for you?
Yes, and then the pulling up the code. How did you
Just double click on the calculate button.
double click on the calculate button? Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's the code that you put in. That's right here in blue. All right, so I'm giving everybody a couple minutes to key that in. What this is going to do in just a moment is when we click the calculate button, it's going to bring up a little box and it'll have a title on it of first one, and it'll have text on it of my first program. It'll have an OK button on it, and the icon for it will be a little I. Hopefully that all made sense from with the stuff you read on here. All right, so let's go in and let's do a file, save all, and let's click the little green arrow right here by the word start. Whoop. And there's a problem. It ran the last program. We got to fix it. I'll show you how to fix it right now. That was my error. That's a good error. All right. The problem is when we first ran this, we told it to run our test console program. We now want it to run our test GUI program. So to make that one run, you've got to take your mouse, single click where it says test GUI, single click on there, right mouse click and choose set as startup project halfway down. I'm going to do it again just in case I did it too fast. right mouse click or single click on the project, test GUI, single left mouse click on it, then right mouse click and choose set as startup project. Now go and run the program by clicking that little green arrow. There it is. Click calculate. There's your My First Program. We're going to fix a couple things. We're going to put this in the middle of the screen in just a second, and we're going to put in the exit button. Click OK, and the program is still running until you either click this X or you click that red square right there. I'll click the X, and now it stopped running. All right. Now, I don't want to throw too much code at you today. So tomorrow morning, what you're going to get, every morning you get these messages from me saying this is the URL, etc. But it's also going to have a very little bit of code in there, about 6 lines, because we're going to have a customized box that we have for our exit. And we can use that for every program that we do. So I'm going to send it to you tomorrow morning. But for now, to keep it simple, double click on your exit button. And in here, just type in this.close, which will automatically close it when you click the exit button. All right, so again, what did I do? From here, I double clicked on the exit button. And in the code window that came up, I just typed in there this.close. I'm going to again go up and do a file save all. And I'm again going to run the program. And you notice when I click calculate, boom, there's my message box. And when I click exit, the program now exits. All right. Now, just a couple more things here, such as I'd like this to show up in the middle of the screen. I'd like this right here to show up in the middle of the screen when I run it. And it's not right now. It's not because I didn't tell it to. So I'm going to click on a blank spot on my form here, right there. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to find in my properties window that's in your bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to find a property that's called, where is it? Start position. And right now it says Windows default location. But if I click on it and then click the down arrow, there's one that says center screen that's right above it. Like that. I'm going to assume I did that too fast, so I'm going to do it again. Single click on an empty part of the form. Find the start position in your properties window. Click on it. Click the down arrow and choose center screen. All right, now notice when I run the program, that looks a little nicer. It's now in the center of my screen. These are, I mean, I'm giving you some aesthetic stuff. That's all. All right, just make it look a little nicer. Okay, couple more things we can do here. Well, it'd be kind of nice when I ran the program that rather than having to click that button to make that thing show on the screen, how about if I just hit the enter key to make that happen? I'd like to do that. All right. So again, I'm going to click on an empty spot on my form. Over in my properties window, I'm going to find a thing here that says accept button. And it currently says none. But I'm going to click on it. I again get a down arrow. And I'm going to choose BTN calculate. Now, I'm not doing it right now because our interface is so simple. But typically, we're going to have three different buttons on here. We are going to have a calculate button, an exit button, and in between them, we're going to have a clear button to clear our screen. We don't have any screen to clear right now, so I don't have a clear button. But what I want to show you is if I go down to cancel button, so right now I'm on accept button. If I go down a little bit and find cancel button, and click on it. Now I'm going to choose exit. So what do these two things do? The accept button will run. It'll run whatever the code is that's behind that particular button when you hit enter. So now when I want to have my message show that says my first program, I can either run the program and click the button or run the program and hit enter. For the cancel button, this is pretty extreme, but I just wanted to show it to you. When the program's running now, if I hit my escape key, which is in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard, now the program will stop running. All right, so I'm going to come in here and do another file, save all. I'm going to run the program again by clicking that green arrow. And now my mouse is over here. You can see it. I'm going to just hit enter. All right, and there is my message box. I'm going to close that. I'm going to keep my mouse back up here. I'm going to hit escape and the program stops running. So what have I shown you in here? All right. What have we done in the last half hour to an hour? We have created our first two applications. They are both unbelievably simplistic. In the first one that we created was a simple console application. As soon as you ran it, it wrote on the screen, my first program. That was the write line. And then it did a read line, which means stop until you enter some kind of character. Either hit enter or enter, hit any keyboard character. But that was a console application, meaning it's all code. There is no graphical user interface for it at all. So we did that first. Pretty simple. Hopefully, at least you found that pretty straightforward. Then we created a GUI, albeit a simple GUI. But what I showed you in here was how to go and rename the form. So we renamed it from form1.cs to FRM firstprogram.cs. I showed you how to change the text. I showed you how to change the background color of the form. I showed you how to change the names for each of my buttons and the text for each of my buttons. Now, there's a lot of other stuff we could change in here. We'll get to that as we go on. All right. But then we came in and double clicked on the first button and we added a message box. There it is. And then we double clicked on the next button, the other one, and just added this dot close. All right. So again, going back, trying to bring this thing full cycle. Of course, I removed it, but let's see. So what we did today, we went through our introduction. I showed you, you can go out to the Rankin website and find the handbook. Again, I don't know why I keep this in here because we used to have a department handbook and we don't anymore. One thing I did not talk about in here is work ethic. Now, I don't know if you have all gone to the online in-service or not, but I'm going to give you work ethic in 5 minutes. In fact, in 4 minutes because it's 11:36. You get 2 grades from Rankin. You get 1 grade that's an A, B, C, or F. You get another grade, I'm just going to put them down here so you see them, that either says D, N, M, or NI, or ME, or EE. You get one of these 4 things. These are your work ethic grades. The DNM is does not meet. The NI is needs improvement. The ME is meets expectations, and the EX is exceeds expectations. Now, what I'm telling you right now may be totally moot. I don't know if they're going to make me do work ethic grades for people I'm not seeing in the classroom. Okay? They did last semester. They may or may not right now. I don't know. But most of you will probably get ME, meets expectations, which means you either come to class or you watch the videos, but you get your work turned in and you turn it in on time. If you never turn any work in, you would get a DNM, a does not meet. If you, I don't know, we're starting to miss quite a bit, or you were talking a lot in class or whatever, you might get a needs improvement. If we're a couple weeks into the class and you get a hold of me and you say, hey, just so you know, I'm here to tutor if you want, and I was working on this, and you're always asking questions and etc., you might get an exceeds. All right. The reason that this is so important, it's not that it's that important to me, but it can be important to you, is we have a certain number of employers in Missouri that love to hire Rankin grads because when they get their transcripts, they also get a copy of their work ethic grade transcripts. And they know that if somebody is constantly either meets expectations or even better, exceeds expectations, those are probably the kind of people they're going to want to hire. All right. So we did the intro. I talked to you about the handbook. I just mentioned work ethic. I don't even know what internet usage thing is since you're using your own machines, but we did the GitHub. It was an introduction if you've never had it before, or it was reintroduced to you if you have had it before. All right. We went through chapter 1. There was nothing on chapter 1. There was nothing in there for a, there'll be no homework and no labs. All right. But as it says, we wanted to get started with Visual Studio. That's what we did. You now have started to learn how to develop a console app in Visual Studio and how to develop a GUI app in Visual Studio. Tomorrow, when you come in here, I am going to start immediately by very quickly reviewing what we did today. And then I'm going to jump right into chapter 2. I'm always going to try to ask first, does anybody have any questions from yesterday? If I forget and you have questions, please speak up. Totally fine with me. But tomorrow, I plan on going over chapter 2 and chapter 3. I'm not going to do a screen change, but I just want you to know chapter 2. Let's see. And you might have it on your screen, you might not. It's not that big a thing. I just want to give you the right names and stuff. So chapter 2 that we go over tomorrow will be how to design a Windows Form application. Chapter 3 will be how to code and test a Windows Form application. When you do your first test, your first hands-on test, I could be mistaken, but I believe there's 2 problems, might be 3, but they're all real short. But I think they're all console apps, just so you know. I'll let you know that before you take the test. All right. So tomorrow, again, we'll go over chapters 2 and 3. What probably will help in your understanding of what we're doing is if you can at least page through the book before class. And then what some people do is they annotate, you might bend the page in or you might write something down. But if you've got questions, then when I go over it, by all means, please stop and ask me. I mean, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to teach this stuff. And I've said this to people before. I have got people that I have trained while I've been an instructor who are better programmers than me. I have no doubt. I know that I can tell you, I used to teach in Wisconsin, And one of my teachers, or one of my students rather from there, he makes double what I make. All right. He graduated probably a good 15 years ago, but he's an advanced ASP.NET programmer. And he might make upwards of 200 grand. I don't know. And I don't make 100 grand, but he might make that up. But the thing is, he started where you started. All right. He didn't know any more than you did. When he came into the program, he had not done any programming. So you can all do this. And I really and truly believe you can all do this. All right. But one thing about him is he was always ahead. He was always at least reading the chapter that we were about to go over. He asked a lot of questions in class. And if he asked a question and I answered it, but the answer didn't meet his satisfaction, he said, I still don't get it. All right. He ended up tutoring students. Okay. You can all do this stuff. And I've said this before. I don't consider myself an overly intelligent person. I can do it. I think all of you can do it. All right. That's really what I had for today. So again, go back and take a look at this. And last thing I'm going to show you quickly, because I haven't finished it yet, but in a few minutes, I'm going to let you leave probably about 5 minutes early, but 10 minutes early, but that's fine. You're going to get an email from me today that says, good morning. The Microsoft Teams video is up and running on, and there'll be a URL in here. I haven't produced it yet, so there's no URL. And then it'll say it's also out on my YouTube channel, and there'll be another URL right there. So you'll click either one of them. It'll bring up this presentation from today. And then it says we will go over chapters 2 and 3 tomorrow, Tuesday, and the date. Please feel free to email me, etc. You will get that at the end of every period. And what you will get by tomorrow morning is another one of, not there, another one of these things that comes up and says, good morning, the second session, and it'll have the URL, etc. in it. Okay, rather, it won't have that stuff in it. It'll be out on my YouTube channel, etc. I don't know, but you'll be getting a beginning message and an ending message from me every single day. All right. So last thing, does anybody have any questions on anything we went over today? I'll try to get better at making sure that when I change my screen to also change, to come in here and change my window and what's showing on here. I appreciate that you let me know. All right. But I'm going to stop screen sharing now because there's nothing else to share. Anybody have any questions?
Nope. I'm
Okay.
good.
Well, hopefully you got something out of this. It was a good start. And I'm telling you, I'm not saying this just because you guys are here, but I'm being dead honest with you. I got further with you guys than I got last year when I taught this class in the classroom. So that's a good testament to you. All right. So if you do come up with any questions between now and tomorrow, feel free to email me. Otherwise, you can click the leave button on here and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
See ya.
See you tomorrow.
See ya.
See you tomorrow.